Now, the last use for the dynamic dialogue structure that I'd like to show you has to do with multiple specific states or switches coming together in order to trigger really context-specific audio assets. So let's go into our dialogue work unit, and we're going to import our last assets for this module inside multi-state one sound voice. Let's bring these four in as sound voices, and let's just put them into a folder to separate them from the rest. Now imagine that you are, in this racing game, able to unlock premium NPCs, AI versions of famous race car drivers that you can race against. And let's imagine that there are specific situations in which the announcer would be referring to actions by those NPCs. So let's take a look at these assets now.
Mario Andretti has been holding back, but that seems about to change. Jeff Gordon has been falling behind, but now he makes a dash for the front of the line. Jimmy Johnson has been dragging behind, but he's finally making a run for it. And here we see a new challenge for the leading spot.
So as you can see, all four of these assets are referring to something, which is an NPC who has been dragging behind in some way, who is now challenging the player's better position in the racing line. So for one of these sound voices to trigger, several things need to be applied. They need to be a premium version of one of the NPCs. They need to have been following behind previously, and they need to be making a dash for the front of the pack. So let's go over to our GameSings and set this up now. So first we're going to want to confirm that our NPC is one of the premium drivers. So we can create an NPC switch group, one switch for each of the drivers, one switch for any other premium drivers that might be added to the game later, and one non-premium NPC switch. Next, we'll want to check their status in the track to make sure that they were falling behind. And lastly, we're going to want to check that dash status. So now we're all set to create our event. We'll pop over to the Event tab and we'll create our new event, Premium Dash. Now right away, we can start selecting our switch groups. First, we'll want the NPC in question. Next, we're going to want that NPC's status. And lastly, we're going to be looking at the dash status. So right away, we can start creating our paths. But in this case, we don't want to be creating paths for every possible scenario, just the ones relevant to our sound voices. So we'll start with Andretti, behind, and dash status on, create a path. We'll switch over to Gordon, Johnson, and Premium. And lastly, just for safety, we can add a generic path. Notice that we are not creating any paths for any of the switches that we don't want triggering audio files. So in this case, if these specific paths are not matched, then Wise will switch over to this generic path, which we will leave unpopulated, and therefore no audio will trigger. So let's populate the audio paths that we do want triggering audio. We'll come back over to our Audio tab and pull in the relevant files. So now we have combined multiple different states or switches to create very specific paths which we have triggering very specific audio files. Now, just like what we've been looking at before in our actor-mixer hierarchy, we can create all of these different paths, all of these different switches, and all of these different events without having recorded a single audio file. This can be really efficient, especially if you have different people creating the Wise structure and the sound design. You can work simultaneously. The programming can happen, everything will get connected in game, and then you can go ahead and start populating those events with actual voices later on in the project and hear them triggered in-game instantly if the programming has been connected. The only thing to keep in mind in this is that there will have to be new programming done if any of the states or switches are changed, added, removed, or moved. In that case, the programmer will have to go in and adjust for those changes. But otherwise, everything can be done in advance, and then you can bring in your audio files as you record them.